let me introduce our first speaker. Prithviraj is a community manager at Harness, building the Litmus Kavos CNCF project community. He is also a CNCF ambassador and has helped to run conferences like KZD, Bangalore, and Kavos Carnival. He has been always supportive for all the community initiatives happening around India. So very glad to have Prithvi as our first speaker today, who will take us through the CNCF journey and introduce us to the CNCF landscape. Over to you, Prithvi.
Thank you so much, Humble. Thank you so much, Robin. I hope I'm audible.
You are.
Yes, I'll quickly share my screen, and a very warm welcome to everyone joining the KTS Kerala Meetup. Thank you so much once again for tuning in on a Saturday morning. And I appreciate everyone joining in once again from the Kerala community and beyond. So we'll be talking about the CNCF community today, and we'll also be talking about the Kubernetes community and beyond that. But before that, I'll quickly introduce myself. I am Prithvi. I work at Harness as a technical community manager, and I'm also a CNCF ambassador. I've been working on building the Litmus Chaos project for the last 3.5 years now. And I'm working closely in evangelizing chaos engineering, FinOps, feature flags at Harness, and also help conduct events such as KCD Bangalore, Chennai, Chaos Carnival. We do a lot of meetups. So feel free to connect with me and we can talk beyond the meetup as well. So let's look at the agenda for today. We'll be talking about the CNCF and the CNCF landscape. We'll be talking about how you can contribute to the CNCF, what all are the aspects that involves the CNCF, how you can contribute to the Kubernetes community, and then maybe just talk a little bit about my journey on what we have done with the Litmus Chaos project in terms of community and maybe how you can participate as well. So this is more of a community-centric talk. So let's start by introducing the CNCF. People say it's an organization. People say it's a sub-project of the Linux Foundation. But according to me, it's an ecosystem. CNCF is not just an organization, but it has helped build an ecosystem of end users, of open source projects, of developers, of contributors, of people who are getting started, let's say students, or even people who are in their in the late eclipse of their career, where they have suddenly wanted to contribute back to projects. So I think it's a mix of everything, and it's built only for the community. I mean, from not just the end users themselves are part of the community. So CNCF has helped facilitate projects to the end users as well, has helped people come back and contribute to projects as well. So it's a mix of everything, and that is why becoming a part of it today has changed a lot of careers itself. And if I show you the landscape, this is the landscape. It has around 165 projects. CNCF itself has 165 projects, and it's inclusive of end users, where it's from database to streaming and messaging to CI/CD to chaos engineering, key management, observability, automation and configuration. There are projects and companies based on every aspect of the software development lifecycle, I would say. And the landscape has grown, I mean, 5x in the last 5 years since the shift to cloud native. I mean, not last 5 years, but I think the shift to cloud native has been beyond that. But in the last 5 years, we have seen exponential growth happening in the CNCF or the cloud native ecosystem, and that's how the landscape has been today. So I'll introduce a few projects to you, or what exactly is a CNCF project. A project, I mean, if you start with an open source project and then you donate it to the CNCF, where the governing principles and everything around the project, the contribution, the outreach is governed by the CNCF, then it becomes a CNCF project. And today as I said, there are 4 types of projects. So there's a sandbox project. That's the entry level project to the CNCF. So any open source project that just enters the CNCF, where the governing principles become part of the CNCF, it has got a certain amount of adopters, the community is just started growing, and the project has just reached a level where a few end users can use it, or it has become ready to be a part of the cloud native chasm, basically, then it becomes the sandbox project. And once it has achieved a level of maturity, once it has been adopted by a few end users, it goes through a due diligence process, then it becomes an incubating project, and then graduated projects, we'll talk about that. And then an archive project is basically a project which becomes a project which doesn't get many contributions, hasn't received any amount of contributions in the recent times, and then it's just been stagnant for a while. That is called an archived project. So taking a look at graduated projects, here are the graduated projects. Kubernetes is one of them. A graduated project is one which has been adopted by the majority. It has crossed the adoption chasm. It is it has achieved project maturity. There are committers from two or more organizations, and there's a security and a fuzzing audit that happens if it's deemed to be secure, and the project eventually receives majority number of votes from the CNCF TOC. The TOC, or the Technical Oversight Committee, is nothing but the governing council of the CNCF, which involves around 10 plus one member, 10 members elected by the community and one from the end user council. And these members, once they have voted for the graduation, after the due diligence process is completed, the project becomes a graduated project, reaching the top cadre of the CNCF projects ecosystem. And as you can see, these are the graduated projects now, and hopefully in the next few years we'll see more projects graduating. So moving on, and these are the incubating projects again. There are limited incubating and graduated projects as of now, because they need a certain sense of maturity in terms of their growth, in terms of adoption. But with 100 plus sandbox projects in the next few years, you'll be seeing more projects becoming incubating or graduated projects. So moving on, how you can start contributing to CNCF projects. So there are various aspects of contributing, to be honest. I have just listed down the languages. So a lot of people ask that maybe how are these projects divided? So I have just mentioned a few projects that are divided in terms of the major language used to develop them. There's Go, Python, Ruby, TypeScript, C++, Rust, and even I think Shell, C, HTML. So there are a few languages used to develop these projects predominantly. But that is one aspect of it, where, in terms of code, you're contributing to the project. But there are various aspects in terms of contribution when it comes to contributing to CNCF projects. So if you talk about Kubernetes itself, we'll go on to that later. But there are special interest groups that these projects have, let's say, contributing in terms of security, contributing in terms of documentation, contributing in terms of um, uh, if you talk about non-technical contributions, then documentation is one. There you contribute to the website, you contribute to the UI. So that is one sort. You can contribute to the community in terms of writing blogs, articles. So that is one sort of evangelizing. That is one sort of contribution. And then from a technical aspect as well, you contribute to the observability, you contribute to monitoring, you contribute to developing the project in terms of bug fixes and enhancements. Or there are so many aspects that one can contribute to, and getting started is not easy. I mean, each project has its own requirements, each project has its own goals, each project has its own maintainership, how the maintainers function. But I believe the basic way to get started is getting started with the getting started guides, checking out what are the resources that are available for these projects, joining the community Slack. I think that is one of the most important aspects. If you talk about how we help people get started with the Litmus Chaos project itself, it's a CNCF incubating project once again. It was by inviting them to the Slack channel, helping them with resources, documentation, helping them getting started with the project, understanding the goals of the project, how does it fit in the Kubernetes or the CNCF ecosystem, and then allowing them to contribute by picking up the good first issues, picking up issues in the documentation, picking up issues in the uh, I mean, not just the documentation, but what are the issues that are currently being catered to in the next release? Because let's say each and every project has a release cadence. Each and every project has in the next month or next few months, there are certain goals meant for the project or the project releases. So that is something that each contributor needs to cater to, and beyond that, picking up the right issues, working with the maintainers, joining the contributor and community calls, help each and every contributor to get started with the project and contribute beyond just the projects. So there are a lot of mentorship programs that are out there. I mean, I think this is not just specific to students. A lot of people feel that these are specific to students, but we have seen a lot of people participating in mentorship programs who have just gotten started with their careers. So there's Google Summer of Code, there's LFX mentorship programs that happen twice a year in autumn and spring. There's Season of Docs, where you can contribute specifically to the documentation, and then Outreach is also an internship program which helps you get started, where pick up issues which have been submitted by mentors from the project, who are basically maintainers or core contributors, and then you work on these issues for 2 to 3 months, and then with an eventual outcome and submission of the PR or fixing the issue basically helps you get started. This is only for the beginners or who are getting started with contributions. And beyond that, you as I mentioned, there are other programs as well. So there are certifications. So you can be a certified Kubernetes administrator, that's the CK or the CKAD, or there's the KCS, KTP. There's so many certifications out there, and these certifications are also available at discounted rates. So if you're participating in conferences, or if you're a CNCF ambassador, if you're participating in the CNCF community or Slack, so you get access to these certifications, and the resources are already available out there. And I mean, I won't suggest that these certifications are something that define that you are well versed with Kubernetes, or you are a great application developer in Kubernetes, or you have achieved that sense of understanding of Kubernetes. But this is just an additive for you as you are contributing, as you are becoming part of the community. This just becomes an additive for you as a community member. So moving on, I'll talk a little bit about CNCF ambassadorship. I am a CNCF ambassador, and there are a lot of folks who are involved in the community already. There's people who have joined in today. I think they are participating in the community, contributing to Kubernetes or some other CNCF project. So becoming a CNCF ambassador is just an addition to your idea of evangelizing, or your idea of being a community member. And it can there are various steps you can take to become, or basically measures you can take in your contributing journey to become a CNCF ambassador. According to me, if you are maintaining a project, or if you are contributing to a project or multiple projects regularly, then I think that becomes a case for you to become a CNCF ambassador. Or you are active in the community as a community member. You are contributing in terms of delivering talks at meetups, conferences. You are organizing meetups and conferences. There are local chapters that you can organize meetups in. I mean, we already have one for Kerala, we have one for Bangalore, and so many other places. But then maybe perhaps Kerala can have meetups on multiple categories itself. Kerala can have an observability meetup, or Kerala can have a meetup on SREs, or Kerala can organize a meetup on a particular project, let's say Thanos, or Prometheus, or Crossplane. So, or I mean, you can organize meetups beyond that. So that becomes the case for your ambassadorship. Or you can create videos, you can curate blogs on the CNCF platform or the other platforms as well, and that becomes a case for your ambassadorship, that you are out there, people know that you are doing something to contribute back to the community. So it's not just the coding contributions, but contributing back to the ecosystem in terms of a particular project, or for the masses in terms of catering to the cloud native ecosystem or Kubernetes ecosystem, helps you become a CNCF ambassador. Lastly, there are technical advisory groups or tags, which are responsible for overseeing, particular or specific areas which cater to projects or Kubernetes itself. And there are meetings happening every month for these tags. So if you're interested to contribute to a tag, here are the tags that are under CNCF: the security, storage, app delivery, network, runtime, contributor strategy, environmental sustainability, and observability, that cater to specific areas. And then under that, there are working groups as well, which cater to specific, the subgroups as we spoke about. So there's this chaos engineering work group that we have under the app delivery. I think there are other work groups as well, catering to specific areas where you can work on a specific technology for a dedicated time amount, and then publish a paper, or perhaps make it a tag itself in the future. So with this, I think we've covered a little bit of the CNCF, how the CNCF functions, what are the projects, but we'll also talk about the Kubernetes community now, because Kubernetes is the first project that came under the CNCF. I would say the CNCF was built out of the Kubernetes contributors group, and we started finding out problems for each aspect of Kubernetes. So we need policies for Kubernetes. Let's create Kyverno. We need we need to find a testing tool for Kubernetes. So let's find a chaos testing or something, and then create chaos mesh or litmus chaos. We need to find a storage tool for Kubernetes. Then you create something like an OpenEBS or something like a Rook. So there have been multiple projects that were built out of the Kubernetes community. So the Kubernetes community is one massive community that people look to contribute to. And the first question is, why should I contribute back? Why do I contribute to Kubernetes? So yeah, obviously you get recognition, people start knowing you. I see a lot of jobs that have been created are only to contribute back. So if you see the latest development, there's Open Tofu or OpenTF. So once the licensing model for Terraform was changed by HashiCorp, we saw a new project coming up that was Open Tofu, and there are, I think, around 15 to 20 full-time employees that have been hired just to contribute to the open source project and develop it for the next 5 years. So I think it has helped a lot of people build their careers, grow their careers. You're contributing back to a project with so many contributors. You're meeting so many new people. Your career grows day in and day out. You're able to deliver talks, become a developer advocate or an evangelist in by talking in meetups, global platforms, and eventually maybe you build your own startup, you build an enterprise, and so many companies out there are built on projects that are meant for Kubernetes. So how do you get started to contributing to Kubernetes? I think most of the aspects that I spoke about in terms of contributing to the CNCF are pretty relevant to Kubernetes as well. But if you talk about the release team Shadows, that's a program where before becoming a part of the release team, or before contributing back to the project as a lead member, you contribute as an apprentice or someone who's about to take that role eventually. But here it's more of a training model for you, where you're given certain tasks where you act as a shadow release member, and you are working on a specific task, or basically you work with the release teams, you work alongside the leads to understand what sort of a position you can take in the project going ahead. So this is a model which is very relevant to Kubernetes. And the idea of being a shadow member is to learn more than contribute. And once the shadow process is finished, what happens next? Either you become a shadow member once again, or you contribute back as a Kubernetes release team member lead. So these are the two processes that happen after you complete the shadow process. So that is how you get started. That is how the Kubernetes community wants you to get started. And eventually you ask the relevant questions in the developer slacks, you ask the relevant questions in the mailing lists, and then basically become a team member or a lead member. And then what are the community groups that CNCF has? There are special interest groups. Once again, there are working groups, which are groups for a temporary period of time, which you can join in and contribute back to. And once uh, the idea of the group is over, the group becomes a special interest group or publishes a working group paper. And there are community meetings that you can join in. So from a Kubernetes aspect, here are the special interest groups. There's API machinery, application, architecture, and then there's so much more. You can go through it. And these special interest groups have a few leads who are leading these special interest groups. They organize monthly or weekly cadences, meetings, where you can join in and learn more in terms of what you can contribute to. Do you want to contribute to the infrastructure or the networking or the releases? So you can find the aspect that caters to you or where you want to contribute back to, and then become a part of the special interest group and continue to join these meetups week in and week out, so that you can become a lead eventually or become a core contributor to the Kubernetes community. And then beyond that, you have got community meetings. These community meetings are joined by maintainers, core contributors, community members with an agenda set. The agenda is usually around end user stories, releases, what you can work on, experiences, sharing updates, and future goals for the project. And they are joined by anyone and everyone from around the world. So the idea right now for you is to join the community Slack, join the mailing lists, and find out when are these meetings happening, where how you can get started contributing. And then there are so many success stories that we have seen over the last few years with folks from multiple companies, Red Hat, VMware, Dell, and so much more, becoming prominent members of these special interest groups or projects itself. So there's an outlook on the events that are happening around the world. There are KubeCons and Cube Days as well. KubeCon is a 3-day to 4-day conference that happens around the world, prominently being in Europe, North America, and hope we are having one in India next year. And then Cube Days are single day events which are happening in India and Singapore this year. Israel already happened. And the idea here is to talk about the progresses that have been made, talk about aspects of Kubernetes, the projects itself, present it in projects and panels, then present your projects. These KubeCon also hosts booths for projects as well as end users who are sponsoring. So there's a lot of opportunity that is out there in terms of community if you have to participate in events and conferences happening around the world and build your own career and your own connections. And then there are Cube Days, which are local events. For India, this year we had ones in Bangalore, Chennai, and Mumbai. Hopefully next year we are having ones in these locations. There is one for Kerala, hopefully happening next year as well. So these are the local events that happen as Kubernetes community days, where local people can participate. It happens for the local community, people who are based on that particular city or who want to travel, who are nearby that city, who can join the local event and participate again in terms of networking, communicating, delivering talks, and learning. And here are some local meetups who are doing that job. So feel free to join the local meetups, just like you have joined this one for this month. Feel free to join local meetups happening around other areas as well. If they are happening virtually, then that's great. But even if they are happening as local meetups, feel free to join them and talk about your idea and learning of Kubernetes. So we'll just talk about Litmus Chaos from a community perspective, what we did. just so that if you are building an open source project, a project you want to bring into sandbox, or what are the community initiatives that you can take part into. So we'll talk about what we are doing for Litmus Chaos, or what we you can do as well. So I think community building, obviously helping with community events, collaborating with other projects, building community champions, and also ensuring that the student participation has helped build a community from scratch. So here are some, I mean, just we have taken some posters where we participated in KubeCons, we have participated in podcasts, we have participated in ensuring that we join other contributors from the projects, from the DevOps or the cloud native ecosystem, on what they are talking about, how they can develop, what exactly is about the project. And that has helped the community learn as well. And that has helped the project grow in terms of project building, project, I mean, how the project is seen around the globe. And then this is a little bit about the project. It's CNCF incubating project. It's been into 7+ years of development, and it became an incubating project last year, and hopefully it becomes a graduated project next year, or next to next year, however the project goes. And here are some community stories. So we did a Litmus leadership program. So leadership program is nothing but building a community champion out of your community, whoever is contributing to the community, recognizing them, recognizing their efforts. And just like, I think there are Docker community leaders and community leaders for Kubernetes as well. So we did one for Litmus, and then we welcome mentees. We participated in the Google Summer of Code, a season of docs programs, LFX mentorship. We are still participating to invite new participation from the community. And eventually we believe that content is king. I think people who are contributing to these projects, writing blogs on dev.to. So there are a lot of hashtags on dev.to that cater to particular projects. If you find like projects like Crossplay and Backstage, Litmus Chaos, Kubernetes, they have their specific hashtags which are being contributed to by the mass community. They are writing blogs on YouTube. You can find so many people who are curating videos day in and day out, and they are the ones who have become CNCF ambassadors eventually. One of my close friends, James Purin, who's also one of the community members from Docker, he's been curating a lot of videos on YouTube, and that has helped him become a CNCF ambassador. So eventually, if you are contributing to your project and you are putting it out for the community in terms of blogs or videos or articles, then that helps the community go and grow, and that helps the project grow as well. So with this, I think I have come to the end of my talk. Maybe I've been able to share my experiences with a few folks, and maybe I can take some questions if you have any. And thank you so much once again, Humble and Robin, for organizing this, and folks for tuning in.
Looks like we are good, Prithvi. No questions online.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, once again for tuning in. And
yeah, thanks for an awesome introduction about the CNCF landscape. I'm sure it's going to help this community to get associated with the CNCF landscape and working towards the community, right? Thanks a lot.